The sermon is actually based on this book, and this book was actually featured in the video. It's called The Little Book of HooGah, Danish Secrets to Happy Living. And it's by a man named Mike Viking. And it's a really charming little book. It has a lot of fun and humor, kind of pokes fun at itself, but it's also got some real scientific street cred. The author is actually the CEO of the Happiness Research Institute, which is based in Copenhagen. So this guy who's writing about HooGah should know a few things about what makes people happy. And HooGah appears to be one of them. So it turns out that Denmark is one of the happiest countries in the world. In fact, it often ranks first in the world in terms of happiness. People there report the highest levels of well-being and quality of life. And this can be a little surprising because Denmark has notoriously horrible weather, with rain about half of the time, and the cold extended winter lasts about 9 months of the year, with very, very little natural light. People in Denmark also have some of the highest tax rates in the world, but yet they are still very happy. And this is where it gets a little political, although HooGah is not political at all. It turns out that Denmark is considered a welfare state, which is widely supported by its people. They see the welfare model as one that turns collective wealth into collective well-being. They see those high taxes as an investment in their quality of life. And they also see this government model as reducing risk and anxiety and uncertainty among the citizens. Safety nets are actually in place to prevent excess stress and extreme unhappiness. I find this really interesting at a time where our Congress is debating a $15 minimum wage. We hear a lot about, yeah, it will help people survive. That's a great thing. But we also don't talk about how it could potentially increase the baseline of happiness of our country. I think it's a conversation we need to be having a little more of. But in his work to drill down on what makes Danes so happy, the author came to believe that HooGah has to be considered in the equation. It turns out that the Danes are the ones who meet most often with friends and family and feel the most calm and peaceful. All of these things can be described as HooGah. The word HooGah can actually be used as a noun, an adjective, and a verb, but because I don't really know how to conjugate it in Danish, I'm just going to use it very liberally as all three and talk about calling things HooGah, HooGah-like, or maybe doing HooGah. I don't know. So one of the major things about HooGah, and one of the first things he talks about in the book, is that candles are very HooGah. Danes use more of them than just about anyone else in the world. Half of Danes light them almost every day from fall to winter. And these candles are rarely scented. Scented candles are not a popular thing. So that tells us it's really about creating a quality of light or an atmosphere that is known as HooGah. Danes are also known to react to overhead and fluorescent light as if they were vampires. They do not tolerate that. They see lighting as an art form, and they're willing to spend a lot of money even on special lamps that cast the perfect ambient light, the perfect homey light for their dwellings. And you can see how lighting might become really important if you're in a country where there is very little natural light for most of the year. And I think it is that climate in Denmark that has allowed those challenges it faces, that has allowed this concept of HooGah as an alternative to that dreary time to grow. It is kind of like an antidote to a long winter, to darkness, and to rainy days. And although HooGah is kind of a winter-driven thing when we talk about it most, even in Denmark, it's not solely a winter concept. There are still ways we can do HooGah right here in balmy South Texas. Of course, it would have been nice to HooGah back a few weeks ago during the big freeze, but that was, to sit by the fire in wool sweaters and socks and have cocoa and have friends over. But, it's really hard to HooGah when you have no power or heat and sub-freezing temperatures. So that was definitely a missed HooGah opportunity. But basically, HooGah is a highly developed concept of coziness and warmth and togetherness. And the book tells us there are 10 key aspects or characteristics of HooGah. First one is atmosphere, creating atmosphere. That's where that candle and lighting come in. One is presence, being present to the moment, present to what is going on around you. HooGah is not scrolling your iPhone. HooGah is about pleasure, simple pleasures of comfort food and chocolate and coffee and sweets. These are things Danes use to get them through the hard winter. And so HooGah is allows people to have pleasure in food and drink. HooGah is also about equality. It's about people being together, and it's not anything about one person. Everyone shares the tasks and they share the airtime as well. Gratitude. We already know gratitude is a big driver of happiness. Well, gratitude is part of HooGah as well, is being thankful for the comforts you have around you, the friends you have around you. HooGah is about harmony. HooGah is non-competitive. It's not about trying to impress anyone. It's just about being with other people in a casual way and being yourself. And one of the big ones about HooGah is it's about comfort and relaxation. Definitely weighed more heavily over appearances. HooGah is about truce. He says, there's no drama in HooGah. We have political debates saved for another day, not when we're doing HooGah. Togetherness. HooGah can be done alone as a couple, but one of its biggest hallmarks is that it's about building relationships and friendships and sharing common stories and histories with others. And finally, it's about shelter. It's about being in an environment where you feel peaceful and safe and secure with your own little tribe. So let's talk more about this togetherness. It turns out that one of the biggest scientific predictors of our happiness is our social relationships. In Denmark, it turns out that citizens have more time to cultivate these relationships because they have a healthy work-life balance. In Denmark, everyone leaves work at 5 unless you have children to pick up. Then you get to leave at 4. Virtually no one stays late at work. That's a cultural no-no. 70% of Danes socialize with friends a minimum of once a week, right? You can see how that's kind of different. And that's how you HooGah. It's best with small groups of friends. And the equality aspect means that these gatherings, everybody helps to cook and everybody helps to clean. This creates an atmosphere that is warm and friendly and relaxed and down to earth and close, comfortable, snug, and welcoming. So HooGah is really different from the American concept of entertaining, right? Cleaning your house to spotlessness, cooking to perfection, serving everyone to impress. That's not HooGah at all. HooGah is very different. HooGah is also associated with the oxytocin hormone. You might have heard about this hormone. That's kind of the pleasure hormone that's released when we're snuggling with loved ones or pets and we're experiencing closeness. This is a natural drug that increases our feelings of love and warmth and safety, while our feelings of fear and stress and pain are reduced. HooGah does the same thing. And it really does turn out, you can't emphasize this togetherness thing enough when it comes to happiness. Science shows that after our basic needs are met, happiness varies more with the quality of our relationships than it does with our income. And HooGah itself is also good for introverts who are often more comfortable with a small number of people they know rather than being in a large crowd of strangers. HooGah is about food and drink. I mentioned before, it's about comfort food, not fancy food. It's about hot drinks, about casual clothing. And you can even make your home more HooGah. Nooks are very HooGah. Window seats, little places where you can kind of curl up with a book and a blanket or stare out at take some quiet time to kind of look out the window. Candles, fireplaces, things made of natural materials are HooGah. Bringing natural things inside your house is HooGah. Books, ceramics, things that are tactile, things that have different textures. Vintage items are HooGah, as are blankets and cushions. And because of this, HooGah has kind of become a commodified lifestyle thing as well to sell people stuff. But pure HooGah can actually be achieved with very little money because, after all, HooGah is really about the simplest pleasures in life. So if you want to create your own HooGah moment, you can gather some of these items for your HooGah time. You can gather your candles, maybe some good quality chocolate, a nice tea, a favorite book, TV show, or movie. You know, a movie night, a home family movie night with popcorn is totally HooGah. Homemade foods like jam, handwritten letters are very HooGah, whether to reread them or to write them. Journaling, HooGah, maybe with a nice light South Texas compliant blanket on you. Gentle music, soothing music is HooGah. Going through old photo albums is HooGah. And fortunately, you can HooGah outside too. Communing with nature is HooGah. Simple, slow outdoor activities are HooGah. Rustic camping with friends is very HooGah. It's really about being in the current moment to experience it fully and savor it. To stepping away from your electronics and your daily grind is HooGah. Sailing is HooGah. Watching sunsets is HooGah. And again, I really can't emphasize enough that HooGah is about relaxation, but it's not about luxury. It's humble and slow. It's about choosing old over new, simple over fancy, and ambiance over excitement. So HooGah is not the sport for the adrenaline junkie. Now, you can go skiing. That's not HooGah, but the time you spend in the lodge afterwards in front of the fire with friends, that's HooGah. HooGah is about simplicity and modesty, which is really two traits of the Danish culture. Bling is not HooGah. So HooGah focuses on many of the things you can't buy: togetherness, an atmosphere. You can't HooGah if you're in a hurry or if you're stressed out. Close friendships can only be formed with time and engagement with others. And if you spend too much money on it, HooGah is not HooGah anymore. But inexpensive HooGah activities are great. Things like board games, as long as they don't get too competitive. Potlucks, TV nights, yard games like croquet and horseshoes. Of course, fires. Outdoor movies, HooGah. Play is also HooGah. Playing with children, playing with animals. So hot weather HooGah is very similar. It's still about togetherness and good food. So home barbecues are HooGah. Reading under the shade of a tree is HooGah. Enjoying long summer nights is HooGah. Gardening, especially community gardening, is HooGah. Riding a bike, not to work out, but a leisurely bike ride, is HooGah. Picnics are HooGah. It's really all about appealing to the senses. But most of all, HooGah is a feeling. It's a feeling associated with happiness and comfort and contentment. Now, as a society, as a global society, we tend to measure progress of countries by their gross national product, right? That's how we measure success, by economic growth. What instead if we measured our progress and quality of life instead? So there's a great quote for Robert F. Kennedy that says, "The gross national product does not allow for the health of our children, the quality of their education, or the joy of their play. It does not include the beauty of our poetry, the strength of our marriages, the intelligence of our public debate, or the integrity of our public officials. It measures everything, in short, except that which makes life worthwhile." So there are several factors that explain why people in some countries are happier than people in other countries. And these factors can be genetics, quality of relationships, health, income, occupation, and the sense of purpose and freedom within the culture. Denmark often comes up on the top of happiness surveys because it does something I refer to as they wage this war on unhappiness. They wage a war on unhappiness. Now, Denmark is not a perfect utopia, but Danes receive universal and free healthcare, free college education, and generous unemployment benefits. And a lot of this really helps, has a very positive impact on the happiness of people who are less financially well off. At least a month of vacation per year is the norm. And because of all of this, maybe as a result of all of this, or of their culture, Danes experience a high level of trust in their society. They say this would be scary to Americans, but they say you can park your baby in the baby carriage outside of the cafe and go in and have a coffee and not worry. I think you might be arrested as an irresponsible parent if you do that here. But Danes feel as though they have a lot of control in their lives. They have freedom, they have control. They feel like they have an opportunity to have wealth, and they feel like they have good governance, and they feel like they live in a well-functioning civil society. Now, this is common in other Nordic countries too, that are also in the top 10 of happiness. A lot of the same governmental attitudes, societal attitudes. So they end up in the top 10 as well as Denmark. But the author of the book thinks there is one reason that Denmark consistently comes out on the top. You know, it gets this extra boost in happiness, that it could very well be linked to HooGah, this idea being very embedded in the culture, and almost this, it's an obsessive idea in the culture, that by doing HooGah, it's really the pursuit of everyday happiness. So it's embedded in the culture that people are finding ways every single day of their lives to make their lives happier. And a lot of the qualities of HooGah are proven key drivers of happiness. You know, this Danish emphasis on social relationships and having time for them. They naturally focus through HooGah, doing HooGah on savoring and gratitude. And HooGah gives you a greater experience of positive emotions, right? All of this drives positive feelings. And we know that the experience of positive emotions matters more to our overall well-being than the absence of negative emotions, although both are important. Pleasant, positive emotions, and it's driving people to have them create them on an everyday basis. And it's totally embedded in the culture. You can't escape this happiness driver. HooGah actually provides the language, the objective, and the methods for planning and preserving happiness on an everyday basis. And you know, isn't that a gift to have from a culture that you are born into? This gift of being taught to make yourself happy and enjoy life. So HooGah is about making the most of what we have in the everyday. You know, much different from hanging all of our happiness on a 1 week a year vacation or extraordinary things that we may hope for that don't last. So I hope you've found some ideas today on how HooGah may enhance your life and enhance your happiness. Although, you know, COVID keeps us limited on how many people we can spend time with at a given time, I think we're getting closer and closer to when small gatherings can be more and more safe. I think we're definitely on our way. But, you know, families and households can still HooGah right now. And it's still possible to HooGah as a couple or alone. It really is so important to tend to our everyday happiness, because, you know, this pandemic has been long, you know, almost potentially soul crushing, and we're not out of the woods yet. And this is the time of any to pull out the stops and don't think twice about building and creating the atmosphere for happiness that is so needed right now. So I invite you to think about how you might do a little HooGah today, what it might look like for you, or for, you know, sometime this week. I think tonight for me, for this day, I can HooGah. I think our outside meditation is very HooGah, being with a few people and outside in the beautiful weather and listening to the sounds of nature. If it's not too hot, I might have some herbal tea with my feet up and read my new issue of Vanity Fair. I may HooGah by playing with the puppies in the backyard, but cleaning up after puppies is not HooGah. So I invite you to think about how you might like to HooGah going forward, and how you might incorporate this concept into your life. And I look forward to hearing about your HooGah going forward. Thank you, and blessed be, and amen.